Okay, welcome everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started with FACS's 2020 advocacy training. Thank you all for signing in this afternoon for what is our first virtual advocacy training. And we hope to replicate this at least once a year, if not more, depending on interest. So we're so happy you joined today. We're going to try to have some fun. I just want to set up a little bit about what this next hour will look like together. First of all, today we welcome participants from faith communities all across Northern Virginia. And I see that we have folks from Richmond to Fairfax County to Arlington, Alexandria, DC. So that's really exciting. Today, I do want to give a nod to the Citizens Climate Lobby, as we have drawn on many of the principles of their advocacy training. They've been really supportive and gracious as we've used some of their principles of their highly effective advocacy. So some of you are coming to this training very new to Faith Alliance for Climate Solutions. Some of you are joining us as longtime volunteers. So just wanted to share a little bit about FACS so that we're all coming at this from the same place. We definitely invite you to learn more about FACS. If you haven't already, check out our website, look at our social media. We work with over 75 faith communities across Northern Virginia. One of our biggest programs is our advocacy. So that's why what we're here focused on today. And really, our advocacy is about moving people in the faith communities outside of their walls, which is not a really good metaphor these days, because we're not often worshiping in a building lately, but the principle is the same, and that is we want to build a community of from within the faith community that advocates on behalf of the climate and protecting our people. So today, in terms of the format of the training, about the first half or so, or the first 30 minutes, will be going through some of the material and talking about why do we engage in advocacy, what's the importance of the faith community, how do we structure the advocacy teams, what are some of the best practices when you go to meet with elected officials. And then the second half will move into a more interactive format. We have a role play planned, and then we'll have some discussion afterwards. I just want to remind all of you to keep yourselves muted throughout. I think you're all doing a good job of that so far, so thank you very much. Moving forward, so local climate policy and action. What makes our work unique is that we are focused on decisions that are made at what we will often say at the hyperlocal level, or at the county or city level, the local jurisdiction level. It's a level that can often be overlooked, or often citizens don't realize the decisions that are made at that level that do have a significant impact on our lives. So almost all of the local jurisdictions are working on climate plans, for instance. And those climate plans will set the stage for the budget, for actions. How quickly are we going to draw down carbon in our local jurisdiction? So it's extremely important that we are paying attention to these decisions and letting our elected officials know that we're paying attention, we care deeply. And we also have the opportunity to realize change right where we live. And so that's something that is actually really rewarding about this work. And lastly, we have the opportunity to influence the agendas of our local jurisdictions that then feed into the state. And this is important, especially with Virginia as a Dillon Rule state, which is to say that there are many policies that we wish to move at the local level, but that are held up or bound because of state level legislation. So to the extent that we can influence our local jurisdictions in what they put into their legislative packages, that's yet another lever for us. Why do we need the faith community in this effort? The faith community is really a natural fit for climate advocacy. We have this shared responsibility for caring for the earth and the Earth's inhabitants. We come at it from a moral angle that does make us unique from perhaps other groups that will approach their local elected officials. So it's less unexpected these days, but oftentimes local elected officials, when they hear from the faith community, it can be disarming and they let down their guard, and the faith community is a trusted source of information. So when we are persistent and respectful and organized, we are effective. Now, just moving a little bit into some of the more details of our advocacy team model. Again, I mentioned that we did adapt our localized model based on the Citizens Climate Lobby, and that's really about organizing constituents into districts or smaller teams, essentially based on geography. And one of the core principles of that is that we're decentralized. We're not top-down advocacy. We're not an armchair advocacy organization either. We're building those relationships by lining up constituents with their elected officials. We're also sustaining relationships through this pattern of regular meetings. So again, we're in it for the long haul. And then we have consistent messaging because we develop shared set of advocacy priorities and talking points that we have regular opportunities to discuss. And then the faith community has the opportunity to interact regularly with their elected officials. And again, we're grounded in morality. So a little bit about the advocacy team structure. Now, I mentioned here that they were organized by district in Fairfax County, but I do want to note that there are definitely other jurisdictions that are joining us today. As I mentioned earlier, we have nascent groups forming in Arlington County and the city of Alexandria. In those jurisdictions where their elected officials may be at large, that might look a little different. But in Fairfax County, this is how we organize our work because it's such a large county. So we have 9 teams in Fairfax County. They're each led by a volunteer district leader. So you'll get to meet some of them in just a little bit. They're going to help with our role play. And they're composed of clergy and laity from the faith community teams. Generally, this question will come up. Generally, people will participate where they live, not necessarily where their faith community is located. However, the clergy may wish to participate where the faith community is located. So getting into team roles and responsibilities. So essentially we've created a pattern of regular opportunities for engagement, and then there are always impromptu or additional opportunities that come up along the way. So some of the scheduled opportunities would be the monthly advocacy webinars, which we put forth. So this time slot today is the one we use for Fairfax County, although anyone's invited to attend. So it's always the second Wednesday of every month at 1 p.m. We do it over Zoom. We cover any relevant topics. We do information sharing with the teams. And then in January, we hold an advocacy kickoff and workshop.
What happened, Meg? It stopped.
Lost you.
And you're still muted.
Muted, Meg.
All right, hang on, everybody. We're going to see if we get Meg back.
I think it's too many Zoom meetings. There she is.
I apologize. I'm back. I'm going to
Hey,
reshare.
Meg, welcome back.
I'm sorry. It was right in the middle of my phrase. I think my computer is overwhelmed right now, but I'm going to get it back up. Okay. Sorry about that. I remember where we are. Nope. We are here. Okay.
January
Apologies.
kickoff was the last thing we heard.
Yeah, right there, Jane, Meg.
Okay, loading back up. Here we go. We meet twice a year. We task the teams with meeting twice a year with their supervisor, with their board of supervisor, with their school board member. And now we are asking the teams to also meet with one of their state legislators at least. So we're just building up that capacity in that area as well. And then I mentioned some of the unscheduled opportunities that will come up throughout the year. Well, I guess the budget is pretty scheduled. Every year we will put together a team of folks to testify on the budget, but there's always other opportunities that come up or action alerts. And so there's an opportunity for people to participate in any way that they're comfortable throughout the year. So we want to keep the barrier to entry very low for participating in the teams. Okay, in your meetings with officials, we'll spend the next few slides going over some of those details. Preparation, just like anything, is really important. The more prepared we are, the more organized we are in the meetings. Development of advocacy priorities is something that FACS staff and then the advocacy committee, which is composed of the advocacy team leaders, put together jointly. And the teams do have an opportunity to weigh in on that process as well. So those are developed and go back out to the teams in the form of talking points. This year we have issue briefs that are going into a beautiful e-book that will be available in about a week. But for some of our nascent groups, it doesn't have to be that, it won't be that elaborate. A simple one-page priorities is all that's needed. The point is that we have a consistent set of priorities that we're communicating to our elected officials. So those are developed. So what do the teams do? We ask you to read those, know the issues. The point is to be informed. Contacting the elected officials office, that's usually done by the advocacy team leader, or they could designate someone else to do that. Usually the leader does that. Setting the agenda, again, generally a task done by the leader. This is actually a really important step. And we'll go through some of the specifics of the agenda in the next slide. Agreeing upon roles, that's part of the agenda setting. Those roles will be assigned in that process. And we will go over some of those roles in the next few slides as well. And then do your homework. This may require a bit of research. Some of it's easy by identifying which committees they serve on. So if your supervisor is responsible for transportation, you may want to elevate that piece of when you speak with them in your meeting, you may want to raise that up. But also look to see how they voted on recent issues. the day of the meeting. So here we'll go into a bit about what should go into every agenda. And I will note that in all likelihood, meetings this fall will be virtual. So depending on the local elected official, it might be held by phone meeting or by Zoom. These principles will stay the same for the most part. We like to begin and end with affirmation. So we thank the official right in the beginning. And this is usually done by the leader. And again, the leader usually does this piece as well, reconfirms the time allowed for the meeting. This just all goes to setting the tone for the meeting of politeness and respectfulness. And then we go into introductions. Everyone goes around, introduces themselves. And when we do this, we feel like it's really important to mention your faith community when you do this. Again, we are coming from the faith community, so we emphasize that in our meetings. And then one of the roles is an appreciator. So if you've done your homework and you've seen hopefully there's something you can applaud the elected official for, and the beginning is a good time to do that. And then you move into some elected officials may be more familiar than others with FACS. It's good to just give them a quick overview of what FACS is and what we're about. And then someone will make the ask. And then you'll go through some discussion items. Generally, as part of the agenda setting, several people may be assigned different questions that cover different issue areas. And then the timekeeper will be keeping track of time, in which case when you're nearing the meeting end time, you'll go into follow up and next steps. Now, and again, I said we beginning and end with affirmation. So thank them again at the end. Taking the photo can still be done virtually. Again, with their permission, we've seen screenshots done of Zoom meetings, and that can be equally as effective. And we definitely encourage that. It's a good way to communicate back out that we're out there meeting with our officials. So getting into the roles and responsibilities, we have a series of these. So the leader, of course, an important role is really a convener role. Also sets the tone for the group, usually does the agenda during an actual during the actual meeting, brings the meeting back on track if something goes off on a tangent. That is the leader's role, and make sure that the group in general is sticking to the agenda. You can assign, and some of these roles, depending on the size of your group, can be condensed. You don't have, but the point is that all of these are covered in one way or the other. The appreciator is the one that gives the affirmation. There's a timekeeper, self-explanatory, but really important, and a note taker. It's really important to capture these notes as soon as possible right after the meeting too, so that you retain detail of what happened, and then send them out to the group for in case you missed anything, get edits, and then send the final back out. Discussion, there may be folks that are assigned the discussion role, but although all are encouraged to participate, someone can be designated as the asker, who's going to lay out that clear answer. It might be a handful of asks, but that they're laid out very clearly. Deliverable and follow-up, again, now that we're doing virtual meetings, those might be, they're kind of similar, but we will have a leave behind. So the deliverer is responsible for getting that leave behind into the hands of the elected official and or their staff, whether it's sending it electronically or physically bringing it. And then the photographer. The follow-up person also is responsible for the thank you. Okay, so now we have some communication don'ts and some communication do's. We'll start with the positive. And these are really just core good listening skills and good asking skills. If you were having a conversation with a friend, some of the core ideas of that. So you're asking open-ended questions. We're not trying to ask leading questions. Affirmations, you've heard that a handful of times now throughout this training. You know, want to give them credit where credit is due. And then using reflective listening, which is really, and summarizing is kind of similar, whereas we're kind of repeating back what we've heard to affirm that we've heard it correctly, and we're trying to be non-judgmental. So we're listening, we are putting our asks out there, but we're doing this in a non-judgmental way. And don'ts. So some of these may seem obvious, but we'll put them out there. You know, don't be late. Just a polite thing to do. And not to mention your team is counting on you. You have a role, your team is counting on you. Really try to be involved in the meeting preparation. Not all teams do this, but some do. We'll have a special planning meeting beforehand. So if that's going on, and I do recommend that, actually, if you can make it happen, don't miss that meeting. And if you do, catch up with somebody. This is like a double negative here, but don't be uninformed. So, or do be informed. Read the materials, know the issues. We try to present them at length and also in condensed version, depending on how much time you have prepared. That there's always, you know, if you have 5 minutes, you can get to know the issues. Don't dominate the conversation. Don't be argumentative. Try to keep the conversation on task, and so therefore, you know, try to stick to the agenda above and beyond. And I think one more slide before we go into our role play. After the meeting, this goes into the role of the follow-up person, but send that thank you note to the official. That's really important. It can be electronic, and probably better to be electronic, actually, or different opinions on that, but both ways are fine. The note taker will send the minutes around to everybody. We generally share them with the entire teams too, because it's good information for us to all know where the other elected officials are. And then follow up with any follow-up. Role play. Okay, I'm just going to set up how this is going to work. First of all, I'm going to ask you all to go ahead and turn off your cameras for this, because we have 5 individuals that are participating in the gallery, and so then you'll be able to see just the 5 of them, especially if you set your view to gallery, which is the dots, the series of the matrix looking dot at the top, if you see that. So we'll ask you to all start turning off your cameras, if you don't mind, while we're doing the role play exercise. For about 10 minutes, you're going to watch them do this role play, which is a mock meeting with an elected official. And I want you to really pay attention to what they're doing well and what they're not doing well, because we'll talk about it afterwards. So I'll just set it up, and then I'm going to turn it over to our role play team. So this fictional team is 4 team members and 1 elected official. On our team, well, the elected official is going to be played by Scott Peterson. So he is playing the role of Supervisor Peterson. Jean Wright is our advocacy team leader. Cindy Spees and David Kepley are our discussion team members. And Barb Bacon is our note taker and timekeeper. So I'm going to turn.
Meg, can you unshare your screen?
How to turn it
And then
off?
I'm going to unshare my screen.
Yeah.
Yes.
How do I turn it off?
Bottom left corner, Harriet.
Well, welcome to, I'm so glad that all of you could join us today for this meeting. You know, the Unicorn District, of which I am the supervisor, is unique, you know, because we have people who care. You know, I was first elected in the board at 1999. It all started back when I was a young boy. I was actually a Boy Scout, and my father asked me to, this was actually before I was a Boy Scout, and my father asked me to come out and help because where we lived in Pennsylvania, the river had flooded. And
Thank you,
uh,
Supervisor Peterson.
oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Wright, Reverend Wright. I'm so glad you're here. What are you here to talk to us about today?
Well, thank you so much for all of your service. And we are the Faith Alliance for Climate Solutions. Several of us are members of your district. And we appreciate all that you have been doing for the county. Our concern is climate change and particularly climate solutions. So we want to partner with our supervisors. The Faith Alliance has been in existence for 6 years. We are faith-based, nonpartisan. We are interfaith. And we also like to focus on the moral and spiritual and ethical issues related to climate change and caring for one another in the community. So thank you for having us today. I'm the co-chair of FACS, a member of the Providence District, and also a member at Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Fairfax.
Well, we're really glad that you're here today.
Well, thank you again so much.
Because, you know, one of the reasons why this county is doing so well is because of people like you. You know, it's not just our wonderful staff, but, you know, people who really do a lot of the work. And, you know, we're glad when you come in because we like to listen.
We are very appreciative of your receiving us and being very open to have us here. I'd like to allow our other folk to introduce themselves, but first of all, we understand we have about 10 minutes. So we want to respect that.
Oh, that's right. John, would you call Mrs. Everett? And I'm not going to be able to make that meeting this evening. Go ahead, Jean.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So we'd like to have each person introduce themselves, and then we have some particular areas of concern that we want to discuss with you regarding the county's responses to climate issues.
Well, that's excellent. Go ahead.
Thank you. So our first person is David Kepley. David, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, Supervisor Peterson. My name is David Kepley, and I'm an elder and deacon at Providence Presbyterian Church, and I'm proud to say I'm a resident, and my church is also in the Unicorn District. I'm a proud unicornist.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Kepley.
Okay, we'll just move around the table. Cindy?
My name is Cindy Spees, Supervisor Peterson. I don't know if you remember meeting me about 25 years ago when you were just new to the job, and
well, sure
we spent
I do.
a lot of we spent a lot of time talking about various issues, and I think that some of the stories that we shared were just great. Remember when I was telling you about starting a recycling program in my business, and you were interested in what was going on? And
you know, I do remember that. Yes.
Excuse me a second.
Thank you, Cindy.
Oh,
you share
okay.
Okay,
thank you. Bye.
Also, remember to turn off our cell phones.
Oh, sorry.
And if you would share your district and what faith group you're part of.
As the supervisor knows, I'm from the Unicorn District, and I go to Lewinsville Presbyterian Church.
Thank you.
Very good.
Next, Barbara.
Hello, Supervisor Peterson. I'm Barbara Bacon, and I go to Mount Vernon Unitarian Church in your district.
Oh, I've worshipped at your church. Yes.
So you've been with us. Good. I am the note taker and timekeeper today, so in the interest of time, I'm going to keep it brief.
Very good. Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So what can I help you with?
Well, thank you so much for your openness. The first thing that we wish to talk with you about is the upcoming vote on the 2020 carryover budget. In that is $1 million budgeted for the launching of the Climate Adaptation and Resiliency Plan. We fully support that CARP, we're calling it CARP plan, because we feel that it's the other side, equally necessary part of the energy launch that is occurring right now, CCAP. So we would like to ask you for your support for CAR. Several of us will be speaking at the budget hearing with the Board of Supervisors. So where are you on the CARP funding, Supervisor
Well,
Peterson?
Jean, we're going through a very difficult budget time right now. There's so many different people who are asking for the few dollars we have. And as a matter of fact, the budget is going to have to be cut. Now, this is not an insignificant amount of money, $1 million. I've heard, the county manager has made his proposal. I'm still deciding. Why exactly do you think it's such a necessary investment by our taxpayers?
Well, in terms of looking at climate consequences that are here now with flooding in the county, utility grid issues, every time we have heavy rain and wind, many people lose electricity, trees are falling, lines are knocked down. So we need major upgrades in our infrastructure, and the CARP plan will address that. Also, in your district, you have a lot of people who are in lower income housing, middle income housing. Their needs need to be met. CARP will help with that. So primarily it's the safety and security of the community. So we feel that the $1 million budget line item for this to launch it will be money well spent and will save millions and millions in the long run. So that's why we're asking for your support.
Okay, well, I do appreciate that, and I'm gonna definitely take that under advisement. I think you've made some very good points.
Thank you. And we also have some other issues we'd like to address with you. I think David has one he would like to ask you about.
Yes, Supervisor Peterson, I'd like to talk with you about trying to encourage our members of our county to become more actively involved in getting electric vehicles. I know that you're very concerned about both the budget and about the coronavirus situation. And as you know, the coronavirus situation is a respiratory illness. As we have, as we continue to drive internal combustion engine type vehicles around the county, that just exacerbates the respiratory problems that all of our citizens are facing. And as I know you also know, that when we look at Fairfax County, we see that most of the greenhouse gases that are emitted here are emitted from transportation sources, trucks and cars and vehicles and so forth. And so we're hoping that you can get behind things like trying like an e-transit bus pilot project, or like perhaps trying to move towards getting electronic vehicles for the county when those vehicles come up for expiration.
Well, the county has developed a green initiatives plan, and we do have a target for purchasing electric vehicles for the county fleet. So we're definitely aware of this issue.
I'm hoping you can also be supportive of issues like setting up electronic EV recharging stations in some of the public buildings around the county, like in libraries or the government center and so forth. It would set just a terrific example, Supervisor Peterson, of how this county is all in on the electronic vehicles and it's all in on being green.
Well, we are a Dillon rule state, and there's really only so much we can do.
Well, we could certainly set up electronic charging stations in libraries and police stations and things like that. When it comes to coding situations where we're trying to encourage builders to build with electronic charging stations in their buildings, that you're absolutely right would have to come from the state. But we hope we can persuade you to add that to our legislative package going up to Richmond in the fall.
Well, you've made some very good points. John, can you just make a note?
Excuse me, we have about 2 minutes left.
Oh, let's get on to Cindy.
Okay. Thank you, Barbara. And so Cindy also has an area that she'd like to share with you, but we will do this quickly.
Nice.
Then I will wrap up.
Sure. Okay.
Supervisor Peterson, this is going to be very familiar to you because we've talked about it before. We would like to, FACS would like to see the county become a zero waste jurisdiction. And we that is not a huge yes, zero waste, and not a lot of capital outlay needs to happen to make that work.
What does that mean, zero
well,
waste?
it means we work towards reducing the amount that people are throwing away and increasing the amount that is recycled or reused in the county. We can do it a variety of ways at the local level, and we can do it a variety of ways using state help and the state code, just as Mr. Kepley mentioned to you. We can also
Well, you know, that we are in a budget crisis right now, so a
lot of things are already in the works, and they just need to go countywide. For example, composting. One is that we don't need to be throwing away our yard waste in plastic bags that gum up the works. And we can be recycling and composting food waste from all of the areas of our county, starting with our schools, moving right into residential and building residential areas, and also in larger buildings. So there's a lot of things that your waste department, solid waste department, is already working on. We just need to make it statewide, citywide, countywide.
Well, you made some good points. Things generally work well in our county, and because we have developed a way of doing things, and of course the most important thing is listening to citizens like you.
Thank you. Thank you, Supervisor Peterson. We do want to honor your time, and so we have been able to address 3 important areas of concern for us with the CARP plan. We hope that you will vote yes on that on September the 28th. We can also send you some additional information about cost savings related to such plan, and on the EV charging stations, that we can expand those, and then also look at least at some ways to begin zero waste in the wider county, not just in government operations. So thank you, and we will be in touch with you, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Reverend Wright, I'd be happy to take a picture. If you could give me a 1, 2, 3, I'll do a screenshot.
Yes.
We'll share it
take
with you,
a
Supervisor.
Yes.
Okay. Everybody smiling?
We
Okay,
have
here
to
we
take
go.
a picture, yes.
1, 2, 3.
Yes. Don't forget to vote. I'm up for election.
We will vote. Remember that. We will vote.
Yes.
Thank you so
All right.
much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you to our team. How about a round of applause for our role play team? That was great. I hope that was fun for all of you. So you all are welcome to turn your cameras back on if you wish. Now I'd love to hear from some of you about comments about what you saw that they did well and what could have been improved upon. You can share it verbally or you can share it in the chat, whichever you prefer. Any thoughts about what went well?
I have a question.
Sure.
My question is actually, now I've been in a couple of similar types of Zoom sessions. Is there a rule of thumb in this newly evolving Zoom world as to how to set it up so that someone who's in Jean Wright's shoes has better control? Like, does it matter if the Zoom invite is generated and comes from someone in Jean Wright's shoes or someone in the Scott Peterson's office for facilitating the discussion and cutting them off and things like that?
Yeah, first of all, that you can't cut off Supervisor Peterson, but I think generally our experience is that the supervisors, the elected officials, tend to run the operation. That's our experience anyway.
Most likely they'll want to use their own tool, but so I would follow their lead.
It's mostly for FOIA reasons. They have to be the ones.
Yeah, thus far they have, we've made the appointment with them, but then they have taken control of whether it's a telephone conference call or whether it's Zoom or a webinar or a web system or some other system that they're using, but that's up to them.
They
Because
tend
the one thing I was wondering is, and saw, as I thought you did a really good job of trying to politely cut him off at the when he started going off on, and Cindy, I loved your tangents too. But anyway, so the point is, I just wondered how any tips for politely doing that in the Zoom area, for politely cutting them off before they go down the Boy Scout, Eagle Scout lane.
Do any of you want to take that? Any
I
of
think
our-
it just takes some practice and comfort level with doing that, and finding a gap in breathing
Right.
where you can do that in as gentle and respectful a way as possible. But we also do talk about that. You can talk about that beforehand as well.
I'd just like to add that whether it's Zoom or in person, some of these elected officials will just go on forever. So you really have to wait until they take a breath and jump in.
This is Joelle. I loved that the meeting was so well organized and that everyone knew their roles in advance. I understand the difficulty of needing to interrupt when legislators get off topic, but I also want to ask if there was maybe a missed opportunity, because you let on early on that how you got into politics was helping clean up after a flood or something. I forget exactly but so that was a little nugget there that somebody could have engaged with, to talk about, well, I'm also seeing changes in the natural world where I live, and they really concern me. And I wonder if you've seen changes in the frequency of flooding in the place you grew up. Because I think the meeting would have benefited from a few more minutes of everyone, the legislator and the attendees, each just getting in touch with the why and the feelings around their commitment to climate action. So, that chit, I thought Jean skillfully ended the chit chat, but listen for things that you can use later to engage the hearts of the person.
Yes.
My other suggestion would just be I didn't hear a crystal clear ask for each of the three, or there was a clear ask for each of the three agenda items, but I didn't hear like an awkward pause where we said, Supervisor so-and-so, can we count on you to support this? And then a awkward silence while he had to state a position. So I would encourage even greater clarity, not just about the agenda and the topics, but a yes or no ask for the legislator in each case.
I think that's a really good point,
Good point.
Joelle. And what I've done sometimes is actually, if I've attended a past campaign event in which they've made promises, or if you can find something online in which they've made promises, you can put it right to them by saying, I know you've supported the blah, blah, blah in the past, and we are hopeful that you will maintain that commitment.
Great points, Joel. Thank you.
I have a question also about the follow-up. I mean, there was a promise that additional material would be sent, but I think it would be a good idea to ask, would you like to receive additional material, and what would be most helpful to you to make a decision? Because he was like, very good role playing, like saying nothing, right? Oh yes, you raised good points and blah, blah, but promising absolutely nothing. So I think kind of driving the point, what could we do after this meeting to help you to make the decision? And how can we come back to see where you are in the decision making? I think that would be helpful. And I also wasn't quite clear who receives the minutes. Only the attendees or also the supervisor?
In our case, we share with the supervisor as well.
Okay, but explicitly asking what would help him to make the decision, I think could be helpful. I don't know. I don't have much experience.
Thank you, Maria. Also, when we write the thank you letter to the supervisor, we will highlight the points that we have discussed, and his or her response, affirmation, or any particular questions they had about that. in that letter as a refreshing of our conversation and meeting with them.
The note-taking question is a good one, because this is actually one that has come up. You know, whether or not you add certain details that are meant to be kept internal. So whatever way your team goes, you need to make it clear at the top whether it's meant for internal FACS only or if it can be shared. Because sometimes, you know, there might be more editorializing, for instance, and I'm not sure we really say one versus the other is the right way, but you do need to establish which it's going to be. And if you do make it more of an internal document, then as Jean said, when you do the thank you, you can include the key points as part of the thank you by way of documenting the meeting.
Also in the leave behind, which we did not really get to do in this role play, is that on that leave behind would be the pertinent points for the supervisor that we have made primarily in our meeting with him or her. So there's a reinforcement that is part of the process as well of our primary ask, any information we think would be helpful, and that sort of thing. So it's a one-pager, and we have that to give to them as well.
I have a quick question, if I may.
Sure.
So when Cindy was speaking to Scott Peterson, I could see she was trying to make a connection, a personal connection with him based on something that they had in common 25 years ago. Was, you know, maybe a bit of an exaggeration, but so on the one hand, I could see it kind of derailing the whole thing given the short period of time that we would have with the supervisor.
Right.
But on the other hand, I could see some value in creating that personal connection. So what are some suggestions that you might have for ways that we could do that in a more kind of effective manner, given the time management constraints that we have?
If I could just say, I think one of the most important things we all have to remember is these are human beings, these are people. And so when you're going in there, you know, if you're thinking that, oh my gosh, this person was elected by thousands, yeah, that's kind of intimidating. But if you just go in there to say, this is just another person who I'm going to talk to about some things that I care about. And so then, you know, if you did meet him at one point, you might bring it up, but it's a conversation with someone else who is there to listen to you.
And just to answer your question specifically, probably that was a bad choice of an example about how you could derail a conversation. No one had finished introducing themselves. But if you have an hour meeting, you have more of a chance for that not to be a derailer. Or when I got a chance to ask my question, I might have been able to say, Supervisor, do you remember when we got together 25 years ago and we talked about recycling? It's still, so it probably would have been better for it to be an intro. And making that personal connection is how, it's a strength of this organization, is making those personal connections and getting to know these folks really, really well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I agree with you. It's a good way, good thing to introduce.
I think we all felt constrained by we only have
yes.
So your points are just excellent, and yours and Joelle's, that we ought to be following up on some of those things and taking our time a little bit, but we were really, really super compressed so that we could, you know, not keep you guys here for an hour, just listen to us play act.
One of the things that we often have found is that in setting up the time, and the supervisor staff might say you have a half hour, or maybe 45 minutes. And what we have found is that in practically every time, they have said, well, let's go on a little bit longer with this. Having said that, we still want to respect their time component. So we dance around with that a little bit, but we do appreciate the conversations very much that take place when we meet with them, and that relationship building and engagement that we have. And we emphasize partnership with them. We don't want it to be necessarily adversarial, although it's sometimes that might come in, but most especially we want to maintain the idea and the reality of partnership with them, that we're all in this together and that we want to work together to solve the problem.
I had one more comment too about offering. I'm sorry, was it Susan? Somebody who mentioned that we should be offering them some more information on a particular topic that they brought, seemed to be interested in. And that has happened time and time again after a meeting. When we do an after action review, we will try to identify what were the things that the supervisor didn't know a lot about, what was interested in. And if that wasn't in our leave behind, in our thank you, we'll say, we'd love to reach out to you with more information on this topic. And it's happened numerous times that FACS has been a resource for supervisors who did not, because they can't be experts in everything, but who did not know, for example, that all the yard waste was allowed to go out in plastic bags or be picked up, just giving them a little something to go on with their own agencies and staff.
Although be judicious. We don't want to, we can't say, oh yeah, here's another 50-page report because they've already got 500 pages on their desk.
Yeah,
so
no.
Be judicious.
Yeah.
Any others? I'll just quickly read some that came through on the chat since I did offer that up. Marsha White says, the roles were well delineated. A dry one would have made it smoother. Great example of bouncing roles. Let's see. Brian Land says, possibly acknowledging the prior accomplishments of Supervisor Peterson, such as the EV initiative, to show that you've done your homework and to bring up this.
I like that.
Good. That's a good one.
Yep. Yep.
Good one.
And I really cannot pronounce your name properly. Stephanette Mesvin, Champagne. If budget is often the reason, apologies for botching that, if it is often the reason for non-action commitment, would it be helpful to lead with that and some cost-saving measures to make this achievable at the beginning instead of the end? Bring up how not expensive or manageable it would be at the beginning of each section.
Yeah, I guess I was going to suggest on that one. That's a great comment, and that's one that we can get from supervisors. And Scott brought it up in his role playing as Supervisor Peterson. Yeah, and I guess I would like to try to make the point in some of these things where, there's a difference between an expense and an investment. In an investment, you can get a return on an investment. So like with the electronic vehicles thing, I was going to mention, if I'd had time and if Scott had pushed me further, that, geez, if you get these electronic buses, from our little position paper, it says we can save something like $520,000 by buying an electric bus because of costs, the lower cost of maintenance, and of course is zero cost when it comes to buying gasoline. So I would have said, yes, you're right. You have to spend some money to buy a bus, but you know what? In the long run, it's going to save you money, going to save me, a taxpayer, some money. So I think that's an important distinction to make in a lot of the things that we say. And I'm sure Cindy could have made the same point in some of the points that she's making. Yes, it might cost us more to collect some of the trash and separate it and all that, but the county saves both societally as well as in the maintenance costs of burning it and all of that stuff. So. Whoops, I went black here.
No, we're still here.
Oh, there we go.
Yep. Well, thank you. We're getting to the end of our hour, so I want to flip back. We just have really one additional slide here. I think this role play was a lot of fun, and thank you all for participating in the discussion. Feel free to keep sending your questions in to us. There's no, we don't have to, we know that there's always room for improvement every time we do this. So we just strive for continuous improvement. And this one other slide, this is sort of a catch-all here, and most of these could be another training in and of itself, which we may pursue. One is to continue to track the issues. And in the Fairfax team, because we've been going at this for a little while, we now have issue leads that are helping us to track these issues. Again, that's because we've been at this for a couple of years now. And we try to communicate back on those issues during our monthly webinars. Regularly communicate with your teams. This can be led by the team lead, but hopefully you all are have developed a relationship with your team members and feel comfortable sharing information with each other, and perhaps meeting in between times that you're meeting with an elected official used to be over coffee or over virtual coffee or something like that, or outside also is a possibility. Throughout the year, if your supervisor votes positively on something, send them a thank you note. They'll love that. It's great to know then they know that we're paying attention, and they love the positive reinforcement, of course. Social media, follow, FACS channels, and, amplify what we're putting out there. That's how we're going to get our message out. So amplify by liking, sharing, and so forth. We're on Twitter, now just recently Instagram and Facebook. You'll see that we'll push out various petitions and letter campaigns throughout the year. So participate in those, send them out to your faith community. Ask them to get involved, where more numbers are helpful. We'll have call to action on various public hearings throughout the year. I know I've had some people ask for training on public hearings, so that's something we may look into. And then, of course, we are in partnership with local organizations, and that's a key strategy. We are right at 2. Let me just see if there's something I need to tend to in the chat here real quick. I just want to now here put a plug for our advocacy teams. As I said, if any of you are listening in and have not yet joined a team, hopefully we've convinced you to try it out. It's not, you can always try it out and see how it goes. So please reach out either to the info@faithforclimate.org email you see there, or directly to me, which is the same, just meg@faithforclimate.org, and we'll connect you in. We also have nascent teams in forming in Arlington County and the city of Alexandria. John Bloom is right now the volunteer lead in Arlington County, and Bill Pugh is the lead in the city of Alexandria. So I've asked them to share their information in the chat. Hopefully they did that, and I'm having trouble pulling it up right now. There it is. Otherwise, you can reach out to me and I'll put you in touch with them directly. I really hope those of you that aren't on the teams yet will consider joining and trying it out. Our monthly meetings are focused, on Fairfax County policy, but any of you are welcome to join. Again, they are the second Wednesday of every month at 1. We get those out through our newsletters and so forth. So that's how you can get the contact information to join those. And I think that's everything. Thank you all so much for participating in this first virtual version of our training. Thank you for your participation and for joining us this afternoon. It was fun.
Thank you, Meg.
All righty, and thanks especially to our role players.
Make sure you come back to the Unicorn District again now.
Indeed.
All right, enjoy the rest of the afternoon.